Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our broadcast about sustainability and how PR and communications professionals can get ahead of this conversation. I'm going to wait a little while. We're just watching our attendees trickling in at the moment. We've got a reasonable number on, so welcome everybody who's on time. We're just going to give it a few seconds really to get people to see that number go up a little bit further. We've got good attendance today, so thank you very much for joining. Just a little bit of housekeeping while we wait for people to join. We will be taking questions from you, and there is a box on the right of your screen. I assume it's on the right of your screen. It's on the right of my screen, whereby you can pop questions in, and we will come to those at the end. We will answer questions at the end. And we will also be distributing this deck after the presentation today, and any other links that we might mention will be in a sort of a follow-up email. This recording will also be available on demand through our website as well, and obviously if you phone us up and get in touch, we'll be able to share it as well. So I think we'll dive in, because I think we're probably at least halfway there with the numbers that we're expecting. So I think we will get started. So as I say, thank you very much for joining us on our conversation about how PR and communications professionals can navigate sustainability goals, which I know is a very hot topic at the moment. And as you know, I'm joined by Jonathan Bunn, who's head of comms for EMEA at MetLife. So thank you for joining us, John. And so just to talk a little bit about what we're going to say today. First of all, introductions. I'm going to introduce myself very rudely, I think. So I'm got a lot of experience in this industry, and I am particularly interested in tracking corporate communication and corporate reputation for clients. And so I've been doing this for many years across lots of different sectors. And one of the things that I specialise in, I suppose, is looking at integrating multiple data sets for clients to help them join the dots, demonstrate return on investment for communications, which I know is close to many hearts that on this call today. And I just wanted to do a quick little shout out for Onclusive, because those of you who've joined us might very well be aware that we are a new brand that we launched only on the 1st of January in this year, and we are exclusively dealing with PR and communications teams, and that on the 1st of January we carved out of Kantar, along with all of the parts of Kantar that deal with PR and communications teams, if you like. So the new business of Onclusive is built up of the existing Kantar reputation intelligence businesses across Europe, and we were and are the largest media monitoring and measurement service in Europe. We joined forces with the Onclusive brand in the US, and they bring some really good analytics and data science platform capabilities to the party. And we also have taken on PR Glue as well, and we're very delighted to have them join us too, who look after PR workflow solutions. And so that is what Onclusive is. So there we are. You've heard it from here, and we're working with lots of clients across our footprint globally. And then I'm going to allow John to introduce yourself, I think, please, and your organisation.
Thanks, Anna. And certainly over those last 20 years, I know we've worked together on a number of occasions, and always been an absolute pleasure. Feels a bit odd introducing or reading out what's there on the screen about myself, but I'm a former journalist, worked in sort of business trade magazines, and then switched over to the world of media relations, PR, and then broader corporate communications. Sort of around about 1997, worked at PwC, Prudential PLC, Aviva, and for the last 10 years, I can't believe it, I've been with MetLife, and it's just been an absolute roller coaster of a journey. Great fun, fantastic company to work for. And then most recently, about 18 months ago, I took on responsibility as well for sustainability here in the EMEA region, which is about 23 countries across Europe, Middle East and Africa. Will that do?
Yeah, that's very nice. And just tell us a bit about the organisation as well, please.
Yeah, MetLife in the US is a household name, very similar to Prudential or Aviva here. a leading global provider of insurance, annuities and employee benefits. Biggest in the US, about number 4 in the world. We've been around for 154 years now, and only 12 companies in the Fortune 100 can actually say that. So just like how we support our customers over the long term, we've been here for a very long time. Operating in about 40 countries around the world, about half of those are here in EMEA. Number 46 now on the Fortune 500. And really importantly to what we're talking about today, we have somewhere around 650 billion in assets under management. That might have gone down a little bit over the past few weeks, but that's crucial to our role in sustainability and how we invest those funds. And we can talk a little bit about that later on.
Yes, and something that John and I both got in common recently is that we are both graduates of the University of Cambridge Sustainability Management course. And John's done this a bit more recently than me. You've just finished, haven't you? So, and I did it 12 months ago.
Yeah,
so.
I've just finished, just got my certificate in the post and now hanging on the wall. Fantastic course. And again, we can maybe talk about that a little bit more shortly.
Yeah. And I only did it a year ago, but I imagine they're forever adapting the content because it's such a fast-moving situation and area. So it's a really interesting thing to do. So we are going to jump into our content in a sec, but I wanted to just do another quick highlight on some work that we're doing in this area as Onclusive. We are generating some materials to help everybody understand what is being talked about in relation to this area. And we did a big report on COP26 and a sort of set of sort of daily stats on that, if you like, to look at the climate change conference in Glasgow. And we will be rerunning this for COP27 in Egypt in November. So watch this space for that. We also every day publish an ESG newsletter, which is just a really nice news digest of everything that is going on in the ESG environment, and it's sort of how it relates to business sectors as well. So I'd recommend that you go in and have a look at that, and we will share the links to those things in our follow-up email. So thank you for bearing with me on that. So just to think in general about what sustainability is, you know, even that word has been something that has moved quite a lot over the last sort of 10 or 15 years since it started being mooted in this context, if you like. And really the best articulation of what sustainability is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN SDGs as they're known. There are 17 of these, and they identify all the different themes and areas which governments, businesses, cities, individuals can focus on to really make a difference and contribute. So a lot of people talk about sustainability interchangeably with environment, but actually there's only 5 environmental goals on this list. So things like looking after, you know, what's going on land and what's going on under the sea, and being careful about emissions. Most of the goals are actually around social equity, because those 2 ideas are very, very closely intertwined. So stories around reduced inequality and gender equality and access to quality education are absolutely integrated with the climate agenda, and, you know, dealing with plastics and all of that. They're very, very closely intertwined. And then the third piece, there are 2 goals which relate to building strong institutions. So it's really important that if again, cities, governments, organisations are going to try and make strides on this area, that they are supported by strong institutions, and that's something which is enshrined in this list of 17 goals as well. So that's really what sustainability is. John, would you be able to talk to us a little bit about what this means and how you interpret this at MetLife, please?
Yeah, I mean, you start with those UN SDG, and I think they're a wonderful selection, and absolutely right. But I think you have to make it relevant to your business and to the strategy as well. So we actually went down and boiled it down to 4 or 5 areas, and you can see here in front of you the summary that we selected really closely aligned to the SDG, but the areas where we think as MetLife we can make a difference and which fits very naturally and aligns with our strategy. And I think that's the core thing that companies are looking to do, rather than doing the waterfront of the SDG. It's which ones can you really move the needle on. So for us, it's building a more inclusive and equitable workforce and society, supporting a more resilient environment. Health and well-being is a huge focus for us, not just our customers, but our associates as well around the world. And then really developing and driving economic stability in the communities we serve. So financial inclusion is the shorthand for that. And that's worked really well for us as a starting point. Here in EMEA, we globally, we set in the first place some environmental goals. And I think it's really, really easy with sustainability to look first at the environment. Everyone sort of defaults to climate action, climate change, the environment. And I think we did that at MetLife as well. And we set some fantastic environmental goals globally. And when I took on the role of sustainability lead for EMEA, the first thing I wanted to do was find a way to make those global goals far more accessible, tangible, and actionable for colleagues here in EMEA. They were too big, hairy, audacious to throw your arms around, to really embrace as an employee, say, in Lebanon. And we had to find ways to make them more accessible. So we did a lot of work here in the region over the course of last year, really trying to understand what was under the bonnet of MetLife EMEA when it came to our performance on the environment and where we needed to take action. And we took those global goals as our sort of North Star, and then saw and looked at how we could adapt them and make them more accessible for us here in the region. And the illustration you can see there on your screen is a little interactive tree. Of course, it's a tree where you click on the bubbles there on our intranet, and it brings to life each of the 10 goals that you can see there across 3 areas, which are protecting our communities, creating resilient operations, and then driving solutions. And I think the driving solutions piece for us is the longer term piece that we really need to get right. That's how do our products work for our customers in terms of sustainability? How do we drive sustainability into our products, and particularly into the investments that we make around the world? So there's a huge amount of work going on that particular piece. You'll see there we talk about green fund options, building those out again for employees, making them far more visible so that employees can invest in green funds when they're looking at their pension options, as well as our customers, of course.
Great. Okay, cool. Thank you. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey as a communications person? So learning the ropes of sustainability and how you're progressing this agenda at MetLife, please.
Yeah, I thought I knew a little bit about sustainability before I took on the role. I was certainly passionate about it and had always had an interest and sort of kept abreast of what was going on. But I think when I took on the role, I realized how little I actually knew. And I've set about, and I would absolutely encourage anyone in communications or any other part of the business to build your learning on this. There is so much information available out there. One, I think, are free seminars like this, but many you could go to probably every week where you can build your learning and understanding, and they're a great way of just keeping up to date and building that knowledge. But I felt I needed something more structured as well around this, and I was very lucky that my regional CEO supported me, as you said, Anna, through the Cambridge course, which was fantastic. It's an 8-week course. It was, of course, virtual, hugely demanding. I suspect others on this call may have been on it as well, but massively rewarding and in terms of developing my understanding of sustainability. So I think that gave me a really good foundation to feel confident about coming back to the business and being able to add value and lead discussions around sustainability and help develop our strategy for the region and contribute to the global action that we're taking as well. I think in terms of communication and sustainability, the two fit very well together. This is about telling a story, engaging people, bringing them on board for this journey that we're all going through at the moment. And so comms for us certainly is a very good place to start and feels like a natural fit. And as well as all the work to understand the metrics and our performance, which has been going on behind the scenes, we very quickly wanted to build engagement of our employees across the region as well. And the pictures you can see here on screen are of a really simple initiative that we launched here in EMEA, which was just to get people out collecting litter from their communities. We also sell our products a lot through an agency sales force. So this again resonated really, really well. Post-pandemic as well, people were keen to get out there, either in groups where they're allowed to, or just on their own and doing it. So you can see we've got Hungary and Turkey there out collecting litter. And we had thousands of people across the region doing this, many, many tons of rubbish removed from their communities. We helped publicise it, of course, locally, so we were telling our communities what we were doing. And then the really pleasing thing is our global CEO saw this campaign and rolled it out globally as well. So we've just gone through a global iteration of this, and hopefully we'll carry on doing it. So comms and sustainability for me, I think, fit really, really well, but we can't do it on our own. I'm not saying here I'm head of communications and doing sustainability. I'm very, very fortunate that we have a really good core sustainability team in New York who provide a lot of guidance and support, and we work hand in glove with them on our program. And we also have a fantastic network of champions across our EMEA region, people in each market who we've given responsibility and accountability to for delivering our sustainability agenda. And I have a very small core group that is our central team here in EMEA, working on sustainability day in, day out.
Yeah, no, great, thank you. So, I mean, obviously it's been really valuable, this, to be able to engage employees and sales force, etc. But thinking about other stakeholders of the organisation, so external stakeholders of MetLife, you know, are there any messages or activities that you've been doing which have landed particularly well with these stakeholders?
Yeah, we talked about the litter picking, which was great. Another thing I think, and many companies do this, is tree planting. You know, we are a company with a relatively small environmental footprint, but it's still important that we take responsibility for that and seek to offset it where possible. And also, I think it's crucial that we are active in our communities. If we are going out and selling MetLife policies to the communities, we need to be supporting those communities as well. The picture you see here is actually down in Brighton, where a team went out and planted trees in one of the local communities that didn't have too many of them. And I think it's been fabulously well received and resonated very strongly locally, again, with our employees, but also with the communities that we support. And we're looking at doing this in two ways. We've set ourselves a target in this first year of 100,000 trees, which I'm pleased to say we'll be doing across the region. And there are these small employee engagement activities that go on, but also we're looking at a larger scale at reforestation in a number of our markets, 8 or 9 of our markets across the region. And this involves working with a partner, in this case it's the Arbor Day Foundation, on large scale reforestation, particularly in countries where there have been climate related disasters impacts, and the forests may have disappeared to some extent. So we're going out and we're planting tens of thousands of trees at a time. So that's a program that we're running this year, which we're all really excited about. And again, that works well internally with the local communities, but also with government and with the regulators around our markets as well.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and you know, one of the things we said here, I think it's something we talk about quite a lot in our space, is thinking about being true to your brand as well. So, you know, I think you've mentioned that some of the products that you offer, all the products you offer, are about protection. So it's quite on brand to be considering how we protect communities and how we protect the planet, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, we're a protection business. It's about, you know, protecting people's lives, supporting them in times of need. You know, we have a, you know, our sort of value is around always there navigating life together. So this is probably the single biggest challenge we're going to have to navigate over the coming years, and we feel a great responsibility, like so many other companies of course, to be playing our parts and doing the right thing. What we're really seeing as well is the demand coming from the bottom up within the business. While it's great that our leadership get it and are fully committed and are making the right commitments as well, we're seeing this increasingly coming through the employee base as well, from bottom up, with the ideas coming through to us, with the call for us to do more. And that's, it's really encouraging, it's invigorating, and just simply great to see so much interest from employees across the region.
Yeah, and there's obviously that halo effect. Generation Z are holding us to account, aren't they? And if we want them to work for us, we need to be walking the walk, don't we? So
yeah, we do. There's some, I think I was reading, it was one of the brand reports, it was Kantar's one, just saying that something like 72% of 13 to 17-year-olds expect their future employer to be socially and environmentally responsible, and they won't work for anyone who's not, and rightly so. But there's just compelling evidence out there of the need as a corporate to be doing this work now and planning for the future.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that communications people and everybody around an organisation find this quite a bit of a scary subject, not because of the difficulty of it, that's part of it, because it is everything's very connected and complex, but I think because there's so much risk associated with it for organisations, and so nobody wants to be caught out by saying the wrong thing, and nobody wants to be caught with their metaphorical trousers down by having said one thing over here and it not be true over here. So I mean, what I also hear from clients, sometimes they're not even allowed to talk about this externally because it is something that is protected so heavily within the organisation. So how have you dealt with this yourself, and have you got any advice for communications people who really want to start making a difference in this area, please?
Absolutely. It is complex, it is massive, and it can be really daunting to try and understand and think, where do I start? But starting is the really important thing. And I think we found that actually just thinking about, yes, let's get the metrics right and understand our performance, but also let's just begin to engage. And there was a real will and desire to do that. And there is very little resistance if you say, we're going to go out and collect litter from the community, or we're going to plant trees. That's like, great, no one's going to say no to that. But at the same time, I feel it really is everyone's responsibility. You've got it there on the screen actually. And communications does play a hugely important role in helping simplify, focus, and really convene people around action. And I see that as the core role. So again, a really great fit there for people in communications roles. The important thing to remember is you are never alone in this journey. It's not one individual, it's many, and it's the power of those networks, both internally and externally, the power of partnerships that you look to build as part of this process that really help you deliver on the goals that you set. So we have strong internal governance. We have teams and primarily people who are double hatting, who are volunteering to do this. And there's no huge budget for us, unfortunately, on what we do here. We have to, again, find creative ways to really seek to get the message out there. And I think that's part of the fun. But one of the pieces of that work is around reporting to our regulators, dealing with the regulators' questions, and that has really helped us focus on the areas that where we feel we can best deliver. So having that sort of regulatory push, as well as the internal sort of action that we're taking, ensures a good alignment for us as we go forward. But yes, it can be big and scary, but it's just about starting on the journey.
Started. Nice. I like it. Great. Okay, so you've mentioned that you don't have a huge footprint as an organisation because you're a financial organisation. The biggest carbon outputs are probably your electricity bills for in your offices or whatever. So as your insurance, life, pensions, you're not using lots of plastic, you're not burning fossil fuels in a big way. what can your industry do to move the dial towards net zero?
It's the huge question, and we've been carbon neutral since 2016. We were the first insurer to get there, and have just maintained it every year since, which is good. Today, actually, we publish our 2021 sustainability report, and in that we talk about our commitment to net zero, which is something we're announcing today. That's probably going to be out in the next few minutes, actually, so this is perfectly timed. And you say, well, we're not a big user of energy, but when you're in 40 countries and you've got 45,000 people and everyone's got their laptops on, and we've got a fleet of Salesforce vehicles, we do have that role to play. So we're eliminating plastic from our office, single-use plastic from our offices. We're shifting our car fleet to hybrid or fully electric, and many other things. But the key area where a company such as MetLife, an investment company, where we take customer money and invest that in the markets, is how we invest that. And I think we will see, and I don't want to make a commitment specifically for MetLife, and that's not my job, but already about 10% of our investments are what we call responsible. And I really hope that as part of this net zero commitment, we will see that increase. Certainly, I think people, customers are far more aware of it, employees are far more aware of it, but that is the single big area where an investment company, an insurer, can make a difference, I think, over the coming years.
Yeah, really helpful, thank you. Okay, so we did actually test how well MetLife's doing in this area by doing some actual research for them on this area. And so what we've done here is to look at MetLife and a small basket of global competitors, and to see how well these messages are landing for each of these groups, for each of these organisations. And what we've done is look more widely. This isn't just mainstream media. This is what lots of different stakeholders are saying through various different channels, such as social media, parliamentary records, etc., as well as what they're talking about through the mainstream media. So this is a sort of a 360-degree view of each of these organisations' sort of reputation for sustainability, if you like. And so starting off with a share of voice, as John said, this doesn't surprise you, John, does it, that you came top in the Americas, but you're not such a big presence in the other markets?
No, that's right. MetLife is a US listed company here in EMEA, and it's a household name in the US. Here in EMEA, we are much more heavily intermediated. So we tend to be a product that someone will sell you, not necessarily MetLife selling you the product.
Yeah, that's right. And so what we found was quite a variety of different topics that each of these organisations was sort of being famous for, or leading with, if you like, in each of these regions. So for MetLife in the US, we were finding that the sustainability goal of gender equality was the leading subject of conversation, whereas over here in Europe, we'd got good health and well-being, and gender was also big in APAC. And each of the other organisations was leading with a different topic. And I know that we talked mainly about environment so far in MetLife, haven't we, John? But I know you're very passionate about the social side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's no surprise, I think, to see those findings here, and particularly for the US. Their post sort of the George Floyd's, the tragic case a couple of years ago, we certainly have focused very heavily on not just gender equality, but all elements of diversity, equity and inclusion, and many of our sort of competitors have done as well in the marketplace, so I don't see a surprise there. Then here in EMEA, we're looking again, and Zurich are very big on climate, as are a number of the competitors that you can see there. We, through our sort of employee benefit trend survey, and as a big provider of employee benefits, have been focusing quite heavily on the good health and well-being piece. In fact, we're just issuing a piece in the UK, I think tomorrow, around that as well. So it's hugely important from us, and links back to the strategy piece as well. I think it's very legitimate to talk around those core business areas for you. Where I think you'll begin to see us coming through more is around the climate piece, is around the diversity, equity and inclusion piece as well. And as we said earlier on in the call, it's very easy to think of sustainability and automatically go to the environment, to climate. The other areas that you see there in the UN SDG are all incredibly important, so you get a holistic view of this, and so that you can really then, as a business, focus on the areas that fit with you and where you can make a difference.
That's great. Yeah. And then finally, just zeroing in on what MetLife is talking about specifically. Again, this is the global view. This is the multi-stakeholder view as well, to see that the overall, the top goal, which MetLife was aligning with, really was that good health and wellbeing message, and it contributed a reasonable amount of the overall output. John said, "Is this good?" when we presented this to him last week. But you know, these scores are extremely positive. So the good news there is, you know, if there are lots of news stories or conversations happening on social media where somebody is saying, "No, we're not buying it. This isn't true," that will be reflected in these scores. So you know, this is great that MetLife is managing to communicate, but it's also communicating consistently and in a way that is obviously authentic, because it's, you know, it's not being undermined by other voices, if you like. Big focus on the Americas, as you can see from this piece here, and then we've got some of the different stories or initiatives which have contributed to driving, you know, the climate action pledge, the reduced inequalities goal that MetLife is working with. So I
think, you know, Anna, just if I could add, it's incredibly helpful for us to be able to track what we're doing. We'll say what you measure gets done, and you know, being able to track your performance is just crucial to it, and to be able to report back as well on the work we're doing and say, this is the visibility we're getting, this is the impact it's having, and monitoring that over time really helps with the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. Right, so I think that's everything we're going to talk about just now, but I was going to see whether there are any questions. I don't know, I haven't even looked yet. I would encourage people to share questions. I am, right, hang on. Right, I don't have anything yet coming in on the chat, so I will encourage you to put questions to John. Are they native trees is a question that's come through, John, in your planting activities.
Yeah, and it's really important, I think, that they are. So we work with the Arbor Day Foundation to plant appropriately non-invasive and native trees to re-establish what was there previously. So yeah, it's a good question, and we make sure that they are.
Yeah, no, great. Yes, and that sounds like a well-informed question there as well. So great going. So thank you, Corinne from Mauritius, who has got 2 questions. So wow, that's great. We've got such an international footprint today. How would you convince companies, talking about the cost when it comes to investing in CSR, and how would you maximize your budget to encourage everybody's involvement, please?
The first point is demonstrating how sustainability, CSR, is aligned to delivery of the strategy. And we're very fortunate that a couple of years ago, our global CEO, Michel Khalaf, brought sustainability right into the center of our strategy. We all have those strategy presentations, the PowerPoint, and for the first time we saw sustainability right there at the heart of what we're doing. And I think that was a huge moment for us at MetLife. So we then had really the ability to go away and say, this is how we're going to help deliver our strategy through the work we're doing on sustainability. The challenge for us is we don't have vast budget, we don't have cost allocated here, so it really forces us to be creative. And I would encourage everyone to get their thinking caps on, to be creative and find ways, like the very simple litter picking initiative that we do here in EMEA, to engage employees and to make a difference, but at real low cost. And what we've seen is, from that really a zero cost initiative, we've got huge impact out of it. And so it's a win-win from that point of view. It can be hugely challenging, though. We're very fortunate at MetLife that we have MetLife Foundation, which is our philanthropic arm. It's separate to MetLife, but we're able to go to them and request funding for some of the projects, the tree planting, for example. We've just put in a grant request for a significant, hundreds of thousands of dollars to help with the planting across our region. And we're looking as well, where possible, to tie that in to policies. So when a customer buys a policy, we can plant a tree, or on an anniversary, we can plant a tree. So there are creative ways there that you can get sustainability right into the business, to the selling of your products as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And then a question from Chloe. What seminars would you recommend for learning about developing sustainability, John?
I think I would go onto LinkedIn and search for sustainability and join the various sustainability groups. There's a communications and sustainability group there that has lots of good recommendations on it. And then I don't know about you, but I certainly get a lot of emails coming in because I've registered for various sustainability elements, and it tends to be self-generating. There's plenty out there that you can go to and pay for. I think I'm going to there's one on Tuesday next week in London, which is the Climate Action. That's actually an in-person event at the QE2 Hall here in London. But it's really getting out there and searching for the ones that are appropriate for you. We get in communications a lot of emails from vendors, suppliers, potential vendors and suppliers saying, come to this seminar, sign up for them and go to them. The other ones I found really, really good are the FT series. They're running a series at the moment on sustainability. So if you subscribe to the Financial Times, you should be getting, or you can get invites to these, or just go on and search on their website and you should be able to find them. And again, they're free and incredibly useful, hearing peers and others in the industry and other sectors talking about their experience. And I think it is really important as well to hear from other sectors, not just what is going on in my world, but how others are coming at it, because so often you can take some of the great ideas that are being delivered in one area, one sector, and transfer them across, adapt them to your region across, or your sector as well.
Yeah, great, thank you. Another really great question from Matthew here. So how do you see increasing inflationary pressures impacting investment in ESG within companies?
It's I think it's probably impacting investment across all areas, not just sustainability, and causing everyone to rethink what they're doing. The bottom line is, though, that we have to get and deliver the goals, particularly around the environment, by set times. So it will create extra pressure, I'm pretty sure of that. But it's something I think that once it's baked into the strategy, we have to deliver it. So it's finding the ways to do it. And if needs be, looking at other areas where savings might be made. That's hugely challenging, I know that, and many companies will also already have been through initiatives around cost. So it's not going to be easy, but it's just another one of the challenges that we face. And again, it may come back to finding more creative ways to approach these issues. And there's so much, I think, when you start looking at sustainability in the business, when you start scratching underneath the surface, you uncover so much that is actually already going on. And so we've been able to discover a lot of best practice from here in EMEA and share that more broadly across the region. So part of it is really looking hard, talking to people, building those networks out, and then trying to make the most of the limited funds that are allocated to you.
Yeah, no, and I think it's great that MetLife's gone public with what your targets are, and you're going to, that really concentrates minds, doesn't it? Because you don't want to be retrenching or going back on those promises. But on the other hand, I mean, how, and I'm not talking about MetLife specifically here, but how much in general do you feel that the sort of agenda of this as being enlightened self-interest is helpful here? The fact that we already talked about attracting Gen Z to the workforce and to come and work for us, they're stipulating and holding us to account that they want us to be serious about this stuff. But customers as well, you mentioned every pound or every dollar that's invested in your funds, could be in one way or the other. It could be going to something dirty, or it could be going to something clean. I mean, do you feel that we've got to that tipping point now where organisations feel they've got to do it for their own preservation?
We are getting to that tipping point. I think there's still a way to go, if I'm brutally honest. And I'd love to say that MetLife, that the insurance industry was perfect in the respect. We're not, and there's a huge amount still to be done. And the encouraging thing is that we're looking at it. Our competitors are looking at it. The industry is looking at how we can accelerate it. And with the goals, I think they will be accelerated. We're seeing new ways of delivering. Technology is playing a huge part. InsurTech is coming through as well to support what we're doing. And we're finding new, creative, innovative ways of experimenting and of getting to our goals as well. Yeah, it is enlightened self-interest, but we have to do this so that we can survive. And having been around for 154 years as a company, we're in it for the long term. And so whatever's good for the long term, for the future, is what MetLife, is what our competitors have to be doing. And that's one of the great things of being able to take a long-term view as a company, where we take customer money and invest it for 20, 30 years maybe. We're thinking about how that plays out over the long term. So we've already cleaned up a lot of what we invest in. Still got a lot of work to do, because it's huge when you've got $650 billion there. That's a huge amount of money. You can't just shift it all in one go. It's about having a plan and a strategy to get there, saying these are our targets, and then this is how we're going to get there.
Yeah, okay. And a good question from Laura in Ireland. So how do you ensure that your communication around this does not come across as greenwashing? Do you have any tips or insights on that subject, please?
Yeah, it's really easy to greenwash. And so greenwash, for people who may not know, is where you make claims that actually you can't back up or follow through with. And we see a lot of it out there. Companies get out there, make great claims. We're just really, really careful about what we say externally. We are a regulated industry, and that helps enormously. So we can't go making claims that aren't true, that we can't back up and validate. And a good example of this actually is when we're publishing the sustainability report today. We are very fortunate in having a strong compliance, risk compliance and audit culture here. So our internal audit team went through every single claim we were making here in EMEA. And there's a bit of pain around getting the exact numbers out on the number of volunteers, but it's about proving what you are saying. And one thing I would encourage you and anyone as a communicator is to keep records, to be really, really clear. And when you're making a claim, be able to back it up and validate it with evidence.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think possibly what might be our final question actually is from Joe, who works for a similar but much smaller organisation that has similar sustainability goals. And social equity is a particular focus for this group. You've talked about tree planting and litter picking, but what activities or media engagement do you undertake to get your messaging out? So they've got a small budget. Now I suppose we're asking you to come full circle back to the full comms role. How do you communicate and articulate this to the outside world?
Yeah, standard press releases is one thing. Where we are finding, and I suspect like everybody else and many others on the call, is social media. So I was just reviewing this morning the social media plan for the launch of our sustainability report today, and there are almost daily drops for our social media feeds with snippets of validated information that we will be putting out there. And the wonderful thing about social media is you are hitting an audience who want to know what you're doing, who are interested in MetLife, as well as people who may be more interested in sustainability in other areas. So it's an incredibly effective way of reaching the audience that want to hear about you and that you want to contact as well. So go down the social route and really build a strong social media plan for getting out there, as well as the more traditional approach of press release. Yeah,
great. I think that winds it up very nicely. Thank you. So I would like to say thank you very, very much to Jonathan for joining us and giving so generously of his time on a busy day, because presumably you've got to rush and start checking out what's going on with your net zero report right now.
Yes, we have our town hall in Brighton later on this afternoon as well. So I've got to try and see if I can get there. That's the next challenge. Rail strikes.
Okay, love that. Here in the UK, we have a massive train strike happening, so there's all sorts of fun and games here. So thank you very much indeed, and thanks everybody for joining, and we will be following up with all of these materials. Thanks very much. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.